Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. And a heavyweight news mashup video today, starting with Daniel Dubois, who has accepted Dave Allen's call out on social media, saying no problem. December in London if this is serious. And what this relates to is Dave Allen travelled to a Frank Warren show in Leeds, doing all manner of interviews, saying that he wanted Daniel Dubois, he wanted a crack at the British title, and that he wanted that work against one of the top heavyweight prospects in the world. And he was at pains to point out that, he's moved on from the sort of bad place that he was in just a number of weeks ago after the David Price fight. And even before, he revealed that he hadn't had a good build-up and that he wasn't really okay and he felt beat before he got into the ring. But he said he didn't want to take the credit away from David Price because he thought he was going to beat him. But obviously he came off second best in that one. So travelling to Leeds to call out Daniel Dubois, he said he wanted to talk with Frank Warren, make the fight. I think a number of fans, upon hearing that news, including myself, were thinking, this guy really does have a bit of a death wish. It sort of seemed to be, he's not, wanting to start from a certain level and work his way back up. He's wanting to jump straight into the deep end against one of the bigger punchers in the heavyweight division, a fighter in Daniel Dubois who is improving every time out and is looking more and more dangerous as he goes along in his prospect phase. So Dave Allen, what chance would we give him if they make this fight? Probably not much. And I was thinking, this guy really doesn't have much sort of regard for his own safety, and it does make me wonder, even though he's sort of saying the right things, that he's mentally, that he's dialed back in now, he's in a better place and his health issues have sort of subsided. I do wonder, is he telling the truth? Because he's saying in interviews he has trouble telling the truth. And what has motivated him to want to fight Daniel Dubois? That's anyone's guess, but he says he wants the challenge. And Frank Warren, he actually, in an interview with IFL TV, said, look, if he wants him, he can have him. I'll bring him round to his house with a bow round his neck. He said he would do that fight at a heartbeat. It would be great for the fans. And in terms of the fight itself, putting aside the Dave Allen stuff and whether it is feasible in his sort of state of mind, all that sort of thing, which I think there is some red flags and some potential concerns, the actual fight itself in terms of a defense for Dubois, while I think he would win that one comfortably enough, either by, a lopsided points decision or a stoppage, it's the sort of fight that he kind of needs at this point in his career, because we've been talking about for a while, it's hard to get this guy rounds. He needs the in-ring experience. He needs to actually get some rounds under his belt. A lot of the guys that he's facing are falling over in the first few rounds, and the guys where he has sort of got a few extra rounds under his belt, like the Kevin Johnson fight, he actually learnt a lot from that fight. So having a guy like Dave Allen, who's durable, who's, hard to stop, he did get stopped on his feet against Tony Yoka just over a year ago, but he went all 10 rounds with Yoka before getting stopped in that final round. So it could actually be a very good fight at the right time for Daniel Dubois. I think it's a good fight for him in terms of his development, where he's at in his career before moving on to 2020 and starting to slowly ramp up through the levels. But for Dave Allen, I think it feels like it's another cannon fodder type fight. I don't know why he wants to go straight into the lion's den against Daniel Dubois. I'm a little concerned about what he's sort of been saying and why he's so gung-ho to have this fight. He believes he can put up a good account of himself and win the fight, but really I give him no show of really doing much of note. We saw the David Price fight recently. He was made to look very limited, and I think Daniel Dubois would make him look limited again, but also he would be putting the hurt on Dave Allen, something chronic. And we can't forget, he's been talking about in recent months how unwell he's been, that he's had health issues for a number of months, and not just, a couple of weeks or in the build-up with Price, but headaches and all sorts of other ailments that he's been sort of suffering. So, I don't actually know if this is really the right move for Dave Allen, but it's his career. I guess it's over to the British Boxing Board of Control if they would license Dave Allen for that fight. We'll have to see what happens, but Allen wants that fight. Frank Warren says he'll make it, and Daniel Dubois wants it. What do you make of it? Meanwhile, Frank Warren has hit back at Derek Chisora. You may recall a couple of days ago at a media event in London ahead of his fight with David Price, Derek Chisora made some scathing comments about Frank Warren, saying that he needed to stop saying his name, and that was in relation to a Joe Joyce fight. He said Warren was a dinosaur in a young man's game. Warren, you need to retire, hang out with your grandkids. The boxing game is not yours anymore, so don't ever say my name anymore. And Frank Warren, he had a response at that show in Leeds saying, this dinosaur will be there with the heavyweight champion Daniel Dubois when he's well and truly gone. The future of heavyweight boxing is with the dinosaur. This dinosaur will be around, touch wood, a little longer. He should really, to be quite honest, come and kiss my backside for what I've done for him in his career. And just sort of also on this sort of back and forth between Warren and Chisora, maybe the threat of legal action sort of was brought out on the Frank Warren side, because Derek Chisora did backtrack on one element on social media, putting a video out saying that Frank Warren did not owe him money. Check it out.
He don't owe me money. It was just me just saying shit as usual. But I did say he needs to stay at home and look after his grandkids. And that is true. But between me and Frank, our business, yes, it's done. He don't owe me any money. It's all sweet. So don't take that as something like he owes me big money. No, he don't owe me money. So I just want to put that out there so people understand that me and Frank, with money, are good. We're good, and it's all love.
So while Derek Chisora just says he's, been chatting some stuff, I think he really did mean those comments about Frank Warren, that he thinks he should retire, that his day is gone. But I guess on the Frank Warren side, he's got one of the blue chip prospects in a stable, and it does look like Daniel Dubois is going to go a very long way in the heavyweight division. But it is good to get a little bit of this tetchiness now and then, because it certainly keeps things interesting. I don't mind it at all. And rounding up this heavyweight news mashup, Filip Hrgovic is set to face Eric Molina, according to Croatian media, on December 7th on the Andy Ruiz Jr. and Anthony Joshua rematch in Saudi Arabia. In terms of my thoughts on this potential clash, should this actually get over the line, because remember, there's no guarantees. Molina has signed on for fights before and has ended up pulling out late notice. The Joseph Parker one back in June is case in point. That one was on, and then all of a sudden, a week or so before the fight, he pulled out, wanted more money. So I guess you can never say never with Eric Molina. Remember, he's promoted by Don King. So yeah, let's just keep our expectations in check if this is in fact going to be made, but Croatian media are reporting that this is going ahead on that rematch card. In terms of the fight itself, is it a great fight? Not necessarily. Molina at this point, I believe, is pretty shot. But when you keep it in context that Filip Hrgovic is a prospect with, less than 10 fights on his record, he's on the way up. Molina is a former title challenger who's on the way down. Pretty shot, I believe. It's one of those occasions where a prospect can put a former contender on his resume, and he's probably going to look very good in there in beating Eric Molina, because I think Filip Hrgovic will knock Molina out. I don't have any doubt about that. I think it would be all over inside about 3 rounds, maybe even earlier. I don't know how much Molina has left to offer, and I'm a little surprised that he's taking a fight which you'd have to imagine he wouldn't be getting great money. But Molina and Hrgovic, it is what it is, I guess, to some extent. If it does get made, it's a notch on Hrgovic's record, and on to the next one. And just on Molina, so his UCAD ban is actually up at the end of October the 26th, I believe, from memory. That wouldn't necessarily prevented him of fighting anywhere else in the world, and he has been looking to fight and has had 1 or 2 fights on his record. But in terms of him being completely in the clear and having nothing hanging over him, well, he would be in December free to fight anyone, anywhere in the world. But Filip Hrgovic and Eric Molina, yeah, it sort of rounds out that card to some extent. They're looking to put a number of high-profile names on that rematch card, potentially another heavyweight matchup in Alexander Povetkin and Michael Hunter. Yeah, so I don't mind it, but it's not the best fight in the world, but it kind of is what it is at Filip Hrgovic's stage of his career. 2020 should be a big year for the Croatian prospect. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.